Welcome back to Snetterton. Before we get underway with the Ducati race, a quick reminder that it's MotoGP round 8 from the Saxon Ring. Friday, 12:05. We're live with free practice. Qualifying is Saturday, 11:30 in the morning for that. And the races get underway next Sunday at 9:15. Sunday morning, all on British Eurosport 2 HD. Right, let's push on then with the Ducati TriOptions 848 race here from Snetterton. It goes straight over to our commentators. Former world champion Neil Hodgson, and he sits alongside Jack Bernicle.
Future world champion Jack Bernicle alongside ex-world champion Neil Hodgson here. Chance would be a fine thing. Jonathan Railton is the man in charge of the Ducati 848 TriOptions Challenge this year. He's had 4 successive victories at Brands Hatch Indy and Donington Park, and then had to clamber his way through the field to finish second behind a hard-charging Marty Nutt yesterday. So Marty Nutt second in the championship is 23 points off 22-year-old Jonathan Railton from Huntingdon, who, of course, Jonathan Railton has just come off riding the WD-40 Kawasaki to a single point in the 1000cc National Superstock race. So you're going to have a fair temperature on, Neil. Yeah,
but I cannot emphasise how different the two motorcycles are as well. I mean, he's now going on to a smaller capacity, twin-cylinder 848 Ducati. Every corner he comes to, he will now have to totally readjust his braking marker. And interestingly, what I've just seen him do is he's set off on the warm-up lap really fast. The reason for that is because he'll be trying to get his head around what this bike feels like, where his brake markers are. Because imagine how difficult it is. Yeah. Literally, what was it, 5 minutes ago, he was braking, let's say, at the 175-yard board. Now he'll be braking at the 125-yard board. But to do that on every corner, to be precise, to win at this level is not easy. I can't emphasise that enough.
So Jonathan Railton, who was a project engineer for a telecoms company based in Huntingdon, is the man who leads the championship, the Ducati TriOptions 848 championship, after 5 of 16 races with 120 points, 23 clear of Marty Nutt. Ulsterman Nutt is ahead of dashing Dennis Hobbs, who he and his wife Gemma celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary yesterday. He gave her a wooden spoon. She was thrilled. 4th place goes to Dean Brown. 5th place to Darren Fry, ahead of Fowler, Morris, Beckett, Smith and Edwards. Outside the top 10, Keane, Field and Neary, with Simon, Robbie Brown making his return to the series, Poyser, Holden, Wilson, Galloway and yet another Brown rounding out the top 20. The place is full of Browns.
And who said romance is dead? You know, your 5th wedding anniversary, a wooden spoon, I like that. I like it.
Apparently Wood is 5th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, but no, but it's not. He's made that up, just to clearly. Jonathan, buy the cheapest thing you can buy.
Jonathan Railton on pole position, danger man. Marty Nutt on 2nd place. Dennis Hobbs, can he get in amongst them in 3rd place? And then on 4th place on the grid, Ben Field. The 2nd row headed by last year's champion, Robbie Brown, ahead of former champion, Leon Morris, Byron Beckett and Darren Fry. And then Dan Fowler, Alex Simon, Ed Smith and Dean Brown on the 3rd row of the grid. Stuart Poyser, Jack Keane, famous ex-violinist, Sean Neary and Jay Dunn on the 4th row. And incidentally, on the 5th row, you've got Nicky Wilson, Ricky Holden, Aaron Brown and Ben Broadway, just to give a name check to all the various Browns out there. But Jonathan Railton, definitely the danger man here, had those 4 race wins in succession before squeezing his way through the pack and galloping through to 2nd place behind Marty Nutt yesterday. The winner of the ACU Star Formula 125 Championship back in 2006. And before that, multiple junior go-karting champion. Plenty of experience here at Snetterton, of course. So Jonathan Railton on pole position. Can the boys alongside do anything about it? Marty Nutt in 2nd place. 3rd on the black bike, Dennis Hobbs. Gemma's actually celebrates her 30th birthday tomorrow, so Dennis could make a really great weekend of wedding anniversary and birthday if he could get back on the rostrum here. Currently 3rd in the championship. He's had a 2nd and 2 thirds in the last 3 races. So Hobbsy in the 3rd place on the grid. This is going to be an entertaining one. And straight off the line, the front row went across absolutely even. Stevens there, who's going to eventually win the drag down to the 1st turn. And it certainly wasn't the man on pole position. Jonathan Railton nudged back into 2nd place, the 1st of 10 laps. And as they oh no, not for long. Railton, the danger man, makes the move into Montreal. We didn't see whether he held it, he did. So number 40, Jonathan Railton, immediately gets himself onto into the front, and he's the man who could run away with this if the other guys don't try and stay with him right now.
What we've seen in the past, Jack, is because Jonathan Railton keeps swapping back from his Superstock bike to the Ducati, it usually takes him at least 2 or 3 laps to get up to speed. So this is actually the first time we've seen him lead a race on lap 1. So
Benfield made a majestic start to hit second place there. He actually hole-shot it ahead of Marty Nutt, Dennis Hobbs, Robbie Brown, last year's champion, Leon Maris, 2011 champion, Darren Fry, Byron Beckett, and Simon in 9th place. They are the top men here as we rush through Williams and onto the Bentley Straight.
With Benfield actually getting the whole shot, he's about 5 foot nothing. It doesn't look like he weighs much. So what we've seen already so far this year is he always gets good starts. You know, there's not a lot of weight to drag him.
He fell yesterday, and he's even shorter than Danny Pedrosa and Sheridan Marias, which takes a bit of doing. And but he's just getting nudged back now, I think. Now, Dennis Hobbs is trying to nudge him back. I think it's Marty Nutt who's the man really on the move, who squeezed through there. Dennis Hobbs desperately trying to find an inside line, but can he squeeze through? No, he can't. He's got to go around the outside, and that, I think, might have almost... He goes around the outside. Hobbs round the outside into 3rd place, and Benfield is getting eaten up here because I think Robbie Brown's gone through as well, last year's champion, who's just made a return to this class this weekend, Neil. Yeah,
and I think we're going to see Robbie Brown have a much better race in this race. He did finish 4th yesterday, but that is his first race back this year, and it sometimes takes you, well, like I say, that was his first race. It takes you a race just to remember how the bike feels, and especially in these hot conditions, because the tyres are sort of overheating and the bikes are going to slide around a lot.
Weaving into Melbourne, and I think that was Robbie Brown getting the better of Dennis Hobbs. And Robbie Brown's actually running as a substitute for Harrogate's very own 50-year-old on the Oldings at P&H Motorcycles Ducati, Mike Edwards. Spike Edwards hurt himself in testing here, I believe, and wasn't able to race this weekend.
No, I mean, Mike's having so much bad luck, really. He had a big crash at Donington Park and literally snapped his 848 in 2 pieces. So he came here testing, and he was here testing, going really, really fast, and then unfortunately he's had a crash and wisely decided to sit this round out.
So now, but what's interesting here is that Marty Nutt seemed confident. Oh, we've got two jump starts on the cards here. What's happened? What have the boys been up to? That's number 8 Ed Smith and number 81 Aaron Brown have both jump started, so they'll have to come in for a ride through at some point, which in such a short race is going to be a bit of a killer.
What happens, this happens quite a lot, Jack, is if someone's next to you and they jump the start, it can sometimes, believe it or not, encourage you to jump the start, because you see their bike move and instantly you've got you clutch on the biting point, and it's a real difficult thing. I've seen it happen so many times where 2 people have jumped to start because of that. They've like been sort of encouraged into jumping the start, but on such a short race, a 10-lap sprint race, I mean, clearly your race is completely over, so it's not good to see.
Marty Nutt, who's enjoyed many years on the British superbike racing scene in Superstock and principally in Supersport. Really lovely bloke who runs Nutt Travel with his dad Billy. They were giving out the leaflets, well, Billy was anyway, in the sunshine at Knock Hill on race day. They organised some great ferry deals, the Nutt Travel people, to all sorts of places. Look at this. The 3rd row, I think, was where we got the jump start. Oh, heavens, yes. Oh, dear. And that was Ed Smith right in the spotlight on bike number 8, and it didn't do him any favours at all. No,
and we actually see he gained nothing from it, because he started to go, realised, stopped, and then actually he'd already penalised himself really by attempting the jump start. I mean, he wasn't intentionally cheating; he's just mistimed his releasing the clutch. But it's sort of a shame then to see a ride through, because he's gained nothing. But the rules are the rules, and everybody knows them, so you can't really complain.
Marty Nutt's looking impressive, but Robbie Brown, who's the lap record here, incidentally, lap record holder here in this class with a 1:56.513. Oh, incidentally, it's just been leathered because Marty Nutt's just won a 1:55.607. So they've sliced almost a second off Robbie Brown's 2011 lap record here at the Snetterton 300 track.
Actually, the times from yesterday were quicker in the race. Jonathan Railton did a 1:54.9.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why he's saying that, but I'm just.
No, it's not saying lap record. That was me assuming it. I didn't realise that the lap record had already been pulverised yesterday when Jonathan was plundering his way through the pack. So here we have Jonathan Railton, I was going to say together with Marty Nutt, but to me the danger man is the returning Robbie Brown on Spike Edwards' bike. He's looking a real threat to Stoke-on-Trent, man.
Absolutely. Remember this, Jack. He's got nothing to lose. He's just a fill-in rider. He's a very experienced rider. He's last year's champion, and he won in such dominant style last year. You know, I think he won over 80% of the races, and some of the races he won by a large margin. So definitely Robbie Brown, the guy on the red Ducati in 3rd place, is the danger man with nothing to lose.
Jonathan Railton, the championship leader, storms across the finishing line. 4 laps out of 10 complete, 3 laps out of 10 complete. Right behind him, Marty Nutt. And can the rugged Ulsterman do anything about this? Because he really needs to start clawing a few more points back. He did manage to get the better of Jonathan Railton yesterday, finishing 1st, beating Railton back to 2nd place. And that meant that the gap in the championship closed down to 23 points. He could do with carrying on, squeezing those points. They've got more races to come at Brands Hatch GP in a couple of weeks' time, and then there's Alton Park, Donington, Assen and Silverstone to come. Assen? Good heavens.
Yep.
Neil, your old stomping ground where you clinched your World Superbike Championship.
I know, and what a stunning place. I mean, it really is. You ask most riders and everybody loves Assen. It's such a it's a track that's been designed for motorcycles, not cars, and it's an absolute pleasure to ride with. Its incredible banked corners, bizarrely grippy track. In the wet, you can almost go as fast in the wet as you can in the dry. It's yeah, it's a stunning place, and one that I've got fond memories of.
Have you been around this track?
Yeah, I've done quite a lot of track days with focused events. I've not raced here, but I come here every year, and they've done a great job. You know, I mean, they did a big challenge to try and gain a lot of length. The old track was such a short lap, and it was just a horsepower track, but they've managed to still keep the long straights, but they've got all the nice twisty section in the middle, which flows fantastically.
To add a 1/3 of its own distance, you know, to go, well, a half of its own distance, to go from a fraction under 2 miles round to a fraction under 3, that was quite a feat.
No, credit to the organisers and, you know, the designers of it, because sometimes when we've seen people do that, what they do is they put some bizarre little tight chicanes in that actually totally wreck the flow of the track. This track's not the case at all. Yes, there's a few more hairpins in it, but they're not the, let's say, Mallory Park style hairpins. You can carry a bit more speed through them.
Robbie Brown there, as he comes through Murray's, is gradually hauling the leaders back in as we complete 4 laps out of 10 then. Number 40, Jonathan Railton, chased by 77, Marty Nutt, and number 121, Robbie Brown. Leon Morris in 4th place. 5th now, Dennis Hobbs getting nudged back down the field. Ben Field is 6th, Byron Beckett 7th, Darren Fry in 8th.
You know, and if Marty Nutt wants to win this championship, he has to beat Jonathan Railton. You know, you can look at that, look at the temperature, track temperatures, what's that, 53? I mean, that's as pretty much as hot. Oh, no, sorry, no.
That's a speed thing, I think.
Oh, sorry, Jack, sorry.
I bow to your superior knowledge.
Oh, sorry, Jack, I'm just, you know, why do I put my foot in it? I'm thinking, whoa, the track's hot, the track's baking. No, that was a speed. Ignore me, sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
So that was poor old Ed Smith taking his ride through. It puts him down to 20th place. So, well, he may or may not be able to scramble back into the points, actually, because some of those lads running down there are running fairly slowly. So Ed Smith, his lap time, Neil, 2 minutes 15.7. That's how much difference it makes for him having, it's about a 20-second drawback for that ride.
Yeah, he's lost 20 seconds there, and like saying we're at half race distance already. Like I say, it's a 10-lap sprint. Essentially, your race is over.
I would bet he could get into the points, to be honest, because he'll certainly lap a hang of a sight quicker than he'll lap the thick end of 5 seconds quicker than some of the lads in front of him. Could happen. What happened to Jonathan Railton yesterday, that he had to fight his way through the pack? Did he just made a tough start?
Yeah, he made a really tough start. He dropped down to about 7th on the 1st lap, and then he sort of, it looked like it took him a few laps to get used to the Ducati again. And then I think it was the last 3 or 4 laps, he beat his own lap record. He smashed the lap record and really pushed Marty Nutt, and he almost caught Marty Nutt napping, because as Marty Nutt started his last lap, he had a 3-second lead, and he sort of cruised round, not knowing that lap record smashing Jonathan Railton was chasing him. He said to me, luckily I looked over my shoulder with 3 corners to go and saw that Railton was within a second of me, so he said I started to panic. So it was a really exciting race yesterday.
Marty Nutt is he's thought about a late lunge there at the Melbourne hairpin and just pulled back at the last second. We're at half race distance, 5 laps complete out of 10.
That was a late lunge. That was too late of lunge. That'd have been contact if he'd let the brake off. But like I was saying earlier, Marty Nutt, if he wants to win this championship, he has to beat Jonathan Railton. Jonathan's won all but one of the races, and you know, he's a 23-point lead. It's not a long championship, the 848, but they don't do all the rounds, you know, that the BSB boys do. So you've got to make every point count. And also for momentum, you know, Marty Nutt won the first race yesterday and beat Jonathan Railton comfortably. This sport is all about confidence. And once you get that momentum going, the confidence, the belief that, yes, I am better than you and I'm going to prove it, you know, that's well, they say it's 80% of it. You know, it's 80% between your ears.
Do you know, Marty reckons he was telling me that he's really enjoying his racing. This has kind of brought back the real pleasure of it. He says, I can't let go of it, really. I mean, he broke his back last... Oh, he's going for a look up the inside, and that will give him the inside line through the S's. Great move. Can he hold on to it? Jonathan Railton comes alongside. So it's the old Irish warhorse against the young whippersnapper from Huntingdon. And at the moment, Marty Nutt has grabbed the advantage. Great move by him. Can he make it stick? I'd be enjoying it now.
And we saw a bit of this yesterday. They're not afraid to bang bars, bang elbows. You know, the beauty of these one-make series is we know they're all on the same machinery, they're on the same tyres, no one's got a speed advantage, and it literally comes down to banging elbows sometimes, and that's why we've seen some great racing in the past.
So the lead then for Marty Nutt, number 77 from Castle Rock on the Ducati Coventry JHP Ducati. Second place now for number 40, Jonathan Railton on the Boast Plumbing Art of Racing Ducati. And look at these two swapping paint now. And right behind them, of course, is last year's champion, Robbie Brown. Oh, go for it, boys. Some proper paint swapping going on here. So Marty Nutt trying to defend his line. This is Robbie Brown attacking Jonathan Railton.
And look what's happened. Nutt has literally pulled the pin. He's got into the lead, and it's just stretching it. Not by much, but it doesn't. You don't need much. You know, the track is. It's one of the tracks where you can do lunges into these hairpins. You can do late braking moves, and if you get just the gap that he's got now, and it's what, half a second, but that's enough. That's enough to basically control the race.
Is there some good old-fashioned gear changing going on here, Neil? Blipping the throttle and down.
Well, you've got to. The way the Ducati is, you know the way the Ducati is, the twin cylinder with those big pistons, there's always a lot of engine braking on a Ducati, and I love that. I've always liked that about Ducatis. But you have to be very precise on your downshifts. You can't rush them. On a four-cylinder, you can literally hit, by the end of the straight, bang it down 4 gears instantly and let the clutch out. If you do that on a Ducati, it will lock solid. So you have to be patient, you have to be precise, you have to be smooth. And I guess that's why I always liked riding Ducatis, because I was smooth.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, there was...
Whilst you're patting yourself on the back, Neil. No, but I was a smooth rider. I wasn't a ragged rider, you know.
I agree, yeah. I agree. There were only moments that stand out when raggedness got the better of it. I seem to remember you and Toles having some heck of a come together at Oshersleyman on the last lap.
That wasn't my fault.
You were riding smooth at the time.
I was, and this one ran me in the side, you know, come on.
Up the hill, yeah, it was very spectacular from our point of view. Up the hill now, over the crest of the rise. 8 laps complete out of, I beg your pardon, onto the 8th lap of 10. And that means we've got, at the moment, Marty Nutt, Jonathan Railton, Robbie Brown just not quite managing to hang with them just at the moment. On that lap, 55.3 for the leader, 55.5 for Railton, 55.8 for Robbie Brown. So the man from the Black Country needs to improve. Leon Morris is 4th, Dennis Hobbs 5th, Ben Field in 6th. They had a Byron Beckett 7th, Darren Fry in 8th. And Daisy Fowler in 9th place. Is Fowler on that beautiful blue machine? You know how I have a soft spot for blue bikes. And Dan Fowler from Hampton on the Fowler Racing Ducati. I got a feeling he might be on a really beautiful sky blue bike ahead of Neary, Simon, and the other Brown, Dean Brown.
Do you know what? I think Dennis Hobbs has got a problem because he's dropped back. His last lap was very slow. So
here is number 34. Dan Fowler, and he's all over the back of Darren Fry, number 3. So Fry needs to find himself a bit of extra oomph here because he's got Dan Fowler for company. Darren Fry, the higher base Ducati Coventry rider, 40 years old now. This is number 77, Marty Nutt, race leader, but Jonathan Railton's closing the gap yet again.
And you were right, they just seem to have dropped Robbie Brown. You know, normally you wouldn't be that far back. You know, you've got to. I mean, there's 1.5 laps to go in there, really. So it looks like it's between these two.
Will the bike feel pretty much like his own by now in the weekend?
He should do by now. He's done practice. You know, the beauty of the 848 challenge is you get 2 races, so you get the race on Saturday. So yeah, it'll definitely feel like his own. Not necessarily. That doesn't always mean that it's running perfect. You know. It'll be one of those situations where after the race he wishes he could probably had another race, you know, but that's sometimes the case.
On to the penultimate lap then, and Marty Nutt's got his hand full now with the Boast Racing bike there in blue and white. That is Jonathan Railton, the championship leader, closing right down on Irishman Marty Nutt. Oh, Nutt runs a little bit wide through Melbourne. He's got to hook it up and keep to the trimming the left-hand curb there as he goes through Palmer's. Throaty, bellowing 848 Ducatis having a really good set to here. It's great to see a race like this. We've seen Jonathan Railton dominate a bit too much. He's coming up the inside into Agostini. We know that's a perfect passing spot, but Marty Nutt's not having it. He cuts back across the front wheel of Railton's Ducati. Yes, good, well done. That's what we want to see, a bit of resistance.
Yeah, I think we've got a race on here, Jack. I think that's fair to say, because really then, that was Railton's line. He'd done the hard work. He'd sort of leveled Marty Nutt, but it looked like Marty just let the brake off and said, not today, mate.
That's what we want to see. You said he needs to start beating him.
But he does. If he wants to be champion. And you've got to remember, like you've said, Marty Nutt is a very, very experienced racer. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Well, this is going to be a test of his experience. For the Boast Plumbing Art of Racing, number 40, Jonathan Railton is hunched over right behind him. He's got another lap to have another look, of course. At the moment, Marty Nutt just has the advantage on the Ducati Coventry JHP bike. But look at this, an early move. Railton surprised Marty Nutt, but Nutt refuses to let him through again and cuts across to hold onto his line. Marty Nutt is really putting everything into making sure he stays in the lead. This is getting fascinating. You get the feeling there's not a lot of love lost here. Now, Marty Nutt through Murray's, climbs the hill. This is into the final lap. Marty Nutt versus Jonathan Railton. Robbie Brown surely is out of it unless these two clean one another out. That's not beyond the realms of possibility. But once again, Marty Nutt makes an early apex at Riches, cuts across in front of the Boast Plumbing bike.
What an aggressive move that was at the bomb hole. It's so one line through there, it's so fast. Marty Nutt closed the door on Jonathan Railton in a very, very aggressive manner. Fantastic to see.
Well, he's such a mild-mannered chap to speak to. You'd never expect to see him doing this on track.
I was just about to say that. He comes across as a true gentleman, not an aggressive sort of character.
Now he knows what he's got to do, James. Neil, sorry. I'm sure he's got to... but look, once again, this time he's not going to be able to cut back. And Jonathan Railton makes the move through. Marty not able to close the door on him this time as they went through Agostini.
This is not over, though. This is not over.
Marty Nutt pressing on then, but Jonathan Railton has grabbed that advantage. Fastest lap was set earlier in the race on lap 3 by third-place man Robbie Brown. Marty Nutt trying to get he needs the drive onto the back straight. He's got to get somewhere near as they go through Williams now. Robbie Brown's recovered as well. He's come back on them. Oh, but a great drive out by Jonathan Railton. And it was Marty Nutt who ran a bit wide through Williams. Can he get the pace together? Can he possibly grab it on the brakes? I don't think so. He's not close enough.
He's going to try and go around the outside. No, he's not. I thought he was going to go around the outside.
Oh, and he just he almost did try and do that. Oh, look at this, snaking his way through. Jonathan Railton putting everything in to try to gap Marty Nutt. Nutt on the final lap, as all his efforts look as if they may have been in vain. It looks like Jonathan Railton is going to take his 5th race victory of the season in the Ducati TriOptions 848 Challenge. But what a performance by Marty Nutt. He hung on until the penultimate lap. It's Jonathan Railton who powers up the hill on the Boast Plumbing Art of Racing Ducati 848 to take victory from Marty Nutt, with Robbie Brown, the reigning champion, in 3rd place. Meanwhile, Leon Morris crosses the line. Dennis Hobbs was definitely in trouble because he's really struggled dropping downfield as we watch this gaggle of riders cross the line. Hobbs crosses the line, Field is across the line, Beckett finishes 7th, Darren Fry 8th, and that bright blue bike of Dan Fowler in 9th place.
Hey, that was some last lap from Railton. You know, his last split, basically the sector of that lap was the fastest he went through that the whole race. And you could see that, couldn't you? I mean, that was a stunning last lap by Jonathan Railton.
So Jonathan Railton, I've already put in a protest and said to Neil Hodgson, you can't have kids as young as this. He's only just 22. You know, it's the old boys' race, isn't it, this one?
Well, the beauty of it is it's a bit of the old and a bit of the new. You know, it's an affordable class, and it's for some of the young up-and-comers who haven't got big budgets behind them that can come and do this series, and it's some of the older blokes who've had a great career and they still want to race bikes, and you know, and that's why there's a place for this championship.
So there is the ultimate winner then. Jonathan Railton wreaks revenge for his defeat yesterday by Marty Nutt, and that means that he's extended his lead to possibly, dear me, here's my maths at work again, 5 and 3, 28 points, I suspect, in the championship. But we've still got rounds to come at Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit, Alton Park, Donington Park, Assen and Silverstone.
And 2 races every weekend, Jack. So 50 points up every weekend, which is, you know, that makes it a lot more interesting.
That's 250 points up for grabs.
Exactly. Wow. I was just about to tell you that.
One failed GCE maths student alongside another.
Exactly.
So applause then for Jonathan Railton. That was a terrific ride by the 22-year-old, relatively local man from Huntingdon. A fairly short trip from him to get into deepest Norfolk. So Ducati TriOptions 848, Jonathan Railton wins it by half a second from hard-riding Marty Nutt. 3rd place for Robbie Brown, 4th place Leon Morris, 5th place, and obviously not quite on the form he was yesterday, Dennis Hobbs ahead of Benfield in 6th, and Byron Beckett finishes 7th ahead of Darren Fry, Dan Fowler just behind him, and Sean Neary in 10th place. 11th for Simon, 12th for Dean Brown, 13th Jack Keane ahead of Holden and Dunn, with Poyser and Ed Smith not quite making it back into the point, but only just missing out in 17th ahead of Wilson, Broadway and Brown. That means that the riders' points after 6 rounds in the Ducati TriOptions Challenge. Jonathan Railton on 145 points, 28 points clear of Marty Nutt. Dennis Hobbs remains 3rd ahead of Leon Morris, with Darren Fry in 5th place. Dan Fowler is just a point back in 6th and 2 points ahead of Dean Brown, with Byron Beckett 8th ahead of Ed Smith and Spike Edwards. We look forward to having you back, Spike. Benfield, Jack Keane and Robbie Brown already into 13th place on his return to the series ahead of Neary, Simon, Holden, Poyser, Wilson, Galloway and Brown. Everybody got off together on the front row of the grid for round 6 of the Ducati TriOptions 848 Challenge, and peeling into the first turn, it was little Benfield who got the best start and ran his way through from on the outside of the front row of the grid, but he sharply got shuffled back by the faster guys. Jonathan Railton got to the front, yesterday's winner Marty Nutt in 2nd, Robbie Brown the reigning champion in 3rd place, and Marty Nutt pulled off a blinding pass at the end of the straight, the Bentley straight, to get the better of Jonathan Railton, and then he would not let Railton back past. And from that point on, it was a question of shoulder to shoulder for these two as they fought for supremacy. Jonathan Railton eventually, though, was not to be outdone, although at that point Marty Nutt did cut back in front at Agostini, hung on to that lead, and then the next lap Railton was at it again. This time he managed to punch a hole through the Irishman's defences, and number 40 Jonathan Railton on the most plumbing art of racing Ducati, getting the better of Marty Nutt. And a dramatic race then, and Nutt almost makes it the win, but eventually, for the 6th time this season, it once again goes to championship leader Jonathan Railton. Takes victory at the Snetterton 300 ahead of Marty Nutt and Robbie Brown. So strong ride then by Railton. He's going to take a lot of stopping in this championship this year.
Yeah, we're here with our 3rd place finisher, Robbie Brown. Really fresh to the bike. It's fair to say that the settings aren't exactly those that you would have chosen for that race, but still found a podium.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously Spike's bad accident that he had at testing. He tried to go out on Friday, but he found it too uncomfortable. So the guys at P&H Motorcycles asked me if I could, I wanted to go. And I thought, well, we're not doing so well in stock thousands, so it'd be good to see if I can actually still run up front. We jumped on the bike. To be fair to Spike, he set it up quite well, because obviously he was a podium finisher. Still a few things I'd like to have changed, but, on the whole, you can't complain at that. I mean, a podium, and I've only been on it this weekend. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. No complaints at all from us either, seeing you up on the podium. Very well done, Robbie. We'll let you go to the podium.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There you go, Robbie Brown. Good to see him back on the podium. It really is. And Marty Nutt, as tough and aggressive as I think we've seen in this class, Marty. How was it from your point of view?
Yeah, we're feeling good on it. You know, the JHP guys there put together a great bike, and I think I would maybe have a wee extra turn of speed compared to other guys there, which makes my job a bit easier. So it's just up to me. Unfortunately, just with about a lap to go, my arm pumped, and I was just squeezing the brake for all it was worth. And you know what that's like yourself, but I'm happy.
So are we. That was a hell of a race out there.
Yeah, no, and just like to say a big thanks to Aptus Utilities and Nutt Travel for getting us here today.
Shame about the arm pump, but I'm sure we'll see you on the podium again. Well done.
Thank you.
There you go, Marty Nutt, our second place finisher. And now our race winner, Jonathan Railton. Some moves going on there, Jonathan, and you're a mere slip of a lad compared to some of these older boys.
Yeah, well, it's a great race. I thought Marty would have had me for a minute there, but I kept pushing, and having just got off the super stock bike, it was hot work, so I was still feeling it halfway through, but hang on.
Did you have a game plan towards the end?
Yeah, it was when Marty, I knew someone was right on my tail, and I knew I thought it'd be Marty. So when he come past, I thought I'd tag onto him, and I didn't want to leave it as late as that, but I managed to pull it off.
Bit of luck in there as well, but you were able to put the bike wherever you wanted. You must be happy with the setup. What does this mean for the next race?
Oh, it's fantastic. Brands Hatch GP is one of my favourite circuits, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I'd like to thank Bo's Plumbing, Mike at Bo's Plumbing, and Carino for putting it together and putting a good bike underneath me.
Nicely done. We'll let you go to the podium. Well done, Jonathan. Jonathan Railton there, our race winner. He'll make his way over to the podium, which is just there. So let's hand over to Jack.
So, third place for the returning Robbie Brown. Just got the call on Friday, so an excellent performance by the boy from the Black Country. Second place goes to the sporting Marty Nutt. The dreaded arm pump, you see, that can really kill you off when the forearms go rock hard and it's almost impossible to grab the brakes. And Jonathan Railton, well, he's got experience of the CEV Spanish Championship. He's been a front runner in the KTM RCA Cup, as well as racing in National Superstock 1000s for a lad of 22. When you consider that also he's had that 125 GP Club Championship and the Junior Gold Kart Championships. He's done a lot in his 22 years. So the man from Huntingdon gets the trophy from the man who was commentating alongside me just a few moments ago, Neil Hodgson, the 2003 World Superbike Champion and now, of course, Ducati Ambassador. So great race then, and a great result for Jonathan Railton, extending his lead in the championship. It's a great race. It's a great series. It'll get even hotter at Brands Hatch.
Well, so there we go then. That's the 848 Ducati TriOptions Challenge race. Very aggressive race, some great moves in there, fair moves as well. Everybody seemed very happy at the end of it. As you would expect from that One Make series, more power to their elbow throughout the rest of the season. We're going to change tack now and talk about the British Supersport Championship race, because that's coming up next. So let's quickly remind you, or at least tell you, of what happened in yesterday's sprint race. We have two races in the Supersport Championship.